everyone, back here for a weekly tip, and the topic is, of course, risk management. We've said it before, I'll say it again. Having an insurance policy is not the same as having a good risk management program in place. So if you really want to have your tree service operating effectively and safely, you'll follow this 5-step risk management program. In fact, some of the tree services that I've seen with the best insurance rates have been the ones that have followed this program and been proactive on the front end with their risk management process. The first step in the risk management process is the risk identification. So according to a study by the NIP Group, an insurance company that often works with professional tree services, the leading number of losses are caused from both auto incidents and tree pruning or removals hitting property. So if you're a sales arborist or just an arborist in general and you're doing the pre-job site inspection, you want to make sure that you're being as detailed as possible so that when the crew does get on the job, they're aware of all the different exposures on the property. If you're the business owner, you want to think about your property, your vehicles, your fleet, your equipment, your liabilities to others, and your team itself, and really think about where your biggest exposures are and really kind of hone in on the things that keep you up at night. Once you've identified your risk, you can move on to step 2, which is the risk analysis, and consider using a map like the one shown in the tip here for your risk analysis. And the purpose of the risk analysis is to really balance out the difference between the severity of the risk and the frequency or the likelihood of that exposure happening to your business. Remember that insurance companies do look for frequency, as frequency is often an indicator of severity. So if you've had a lot of smaller claims, take note of that and try to hone in on what's causing them, because it's likely that if you don't do anything about it, it can turn into a more severe claim down the road. Once you've done the analysis, use the map, then you can think about how you want to control the risk, which is step 3. And there are essentially 4 different ways that you can control a risk. You can avoid the risk altogether. You can retain the loss that the risk brings. You can reduce the risk by either using safety measurements or, like we said, avoiding that risk a little bit more. Or you can transfer that risk to an insurance company or a different way of financing the risk. So consider the level of the risk and the importance of the risk overall to your business and its operations. So if it's something like working with a crane, something you absolutely have to do because that's a big driver of the revenue for your business, maybe that's something you want to transfer over to the insurance company and finance it through them. But if it's installing Christmas lights and you've had a bunch of claims on that in the past, it's driving up your work comp rates, is that something you really need to be doing? Is that a core piece of your fundamental business, or can you avoid it altogether? Step 4 of the risk management program is going to be the risk financing piece. And like we talked about, there are a couple different ways that you can do it. The first one is going to be assume the risk, assume the exposure yourself. So these are likely going to be things with lower frequency, lower severity. You're talking about things like a fence getting dinged up at a job site, or perhaps a fender bender, something that you can pay for out of pocket, or pay for the repairs yourself. The second way to finance risk is, like we talked about, transferring the risk to an insurance company. Again, probably things that are lower frequency, but if something does go wrong, the severity of it is likely to be pretty high. And again, those are going to be operations that are typically pretty critical to your overall operation as a whole. So you figured out how to analyze the risk, you figured out how to control it, which pieces of the risk you want to finance, which pieces of the risk you want to assume. The last and 5th step of the risk management program is going to be the risk administration. And this is really where you go back and look at how the risks were handled overall. You've identified which risks you want to attack first, usually the ones with more severity, and then kind of work down the line for your overall risks that you've identified to be kind of exposures to your overall operation. The reason we want to look back, we want to make sure that we handled it correctly, and if we didn't, we want to analyze the risk and figure out what we can do better in the future going forward. So those are the 5 steps to the risk management program. Really encourage you guys to hone in on this and do these analysis for your business, and I think it'll help you greatly. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Eric and I. And again, hope all is well and stay safe.